Thank you so much for joining. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
I am the head of exploration at Andromeda Mining. My department's goal is to find new resources and delineate them. And then it heads over to the mining department who proceeds to go and mine it. And then we process and ship.
I want to start at the very beginning here. So what is mining and what is included in the mining process?
In this instance, mining would be the operations from after the exploration has been finished and we know that we found something that's economic. A lot of people think that mining is literally just going into the ground, either digging it up or blasting it and then digging it up and shipping it to a refinery or production facility. However, in a lot of instances, mining includes a lot of processing. So an example from our site is that Western Namibia, our average grade of tin in the ground is 0.15%. What we ship out of the mine gate has 60% tin in it.
Wow.
There is a whole beneficiation process, which a lot of people don't take into account.
What is exploration and how do you define that?
So exploration is essentially looking for deposits and economic resources. And the way we find it depends on where we're looking. At least, for example, there was a historical mining operation. So we knew that there was something there, but depending on who you asked, the mine was either too low grade or it had been mined out, or there was a whole bunch of reasons that the mine closed. So we went back in and we proved that not only is there still tin left because it was originally mined for tin, but there's also lithium and we found rubidium as well. So we don't just randomly go and sample rocks. We use scientific knowledge to identify targets and then take that up the value chain. We start with mapping and soil sampling, and right at the end, we'll do drilling and possibly even bulk sampling. So we had more pegmatites and we decided to go back in and re-explore it. Luckily, we had historical information, which we could then validate. And that's how we got to our initial resource of 37 million tons. In addition to the tin and tantalum, which we knew was there, we also found a significant lithium resource. And this year, we've also announced a rubidium resource. So a mine that was essentially mined out or everyone had considered to be of low value, we've now not only restarted and are producing tin and tantalum from, we're also going to be producing lithium and other minerals as we progress.
What is the difference between drilling for mining and drilling for exploration?
So drilling for mining is essentially making holes in the ground to fill up with explosives, which then gets set off and fractures the rocks. That rock is then loaded up by machinery into trucks and transported to the processing plant. For exploration, we use different kinds of drilling to try and get a sense of what is below the surface. So the two main kinds of drilling we use are diamond and RC. Diamond drilling essentially provides us with a solid core of rock. So the drill bit only has diamonds on the outside that cuts into the rock and leaves an exact replica of what's underground for us to sample and log. RC drilling has a percussion drill head that fractures the rock and chips come up the inside in a reverse circulation method. We then collect those in bags. So that means we have a bag of, in our case, we do it per meter of the rock that is underground. So that sample is representative of that meter lower down. In both instances, we then log it and analyze it. And that analysis gives us an indication of what metals or minerals are within the rock.
I'm curious what is required exactly for the exploration process, particularly what type of equipment?
So depending on where we are in the process, the equipment methodologies vary. To start off with, we do a desktop study of an area that we know or that is of interest. And there we gather historical information, satellite imagery, maps, old exploration reports, if there's any that exist. We collate that and then go into the field or onto that site, do our own mapping and initial sampling to verify the data, see if we can find trends of interest. And then following that, depending on where we are and what we're looking for, we could use some geophysics, we could do infill sampling, additional mapping, and then eventually you end up going into the drilling process where you now not only look at what's on surface, but you also go and find out what's below the ground.
What exactly are resources? I mean, how do you define them?
Oh, that's a great question. Resources are something that a lot of people misunderstand or misinterpret. If you're talking about a resource that is code compliant, we have a very set number of codes which have to be reported according to. So you could pick JORC or NI 43-101, the SAM codes, and they specify what is required. In that instance, a resource is a geological unit which goes from surface down, or can be even as far as a couple of kilometers down. But that unit is defined by, in most cases, drilling. So we have now drilled holes into this unit across a large area. We have to have lines along strike and down dip, be able to classify it. And then depending on what our level of confidence is, can either be inferred, measured, or indicated.
How are resources located exactly?
That's why I have a job. So resources starts off as an exploration project. In some cases, like Central Africa, there is very little knowledge, and guys they can find a whole new resource that no one knew existed. In our instance, we've got pegmatites on one of our mining licenses, which no one had ever found any lithium. We're now busy drilling that out to prove how much lithium is not only on surface, but also extends at depth. So these geological resources or mineralized areas are found in a variety of ways. If you're in a jungle, you're going to use geophysics. If you're in an area that's got great outcrop, you're going to go map and sample. If you're in oil, which is a whole different story, they do a lot of geophysics. So it's a combination of the information you have available and depends on the area that you're in.
And how are resources transported from the site?
Once you've delineated a resource, you then end up moving across through the feasibility chains, and then you build a mine. Once mining starts, in most instances, it's either on surface, which is what we have, open cast mine, or you can have underground mine, which is subsurface entirely. You end up with guys going in, blasting, mining it. That material is then pulled out from the ground, either at surface or lower down, and then transported to a processing site. Now, those processing sites you want to have as close to the mine as possible, because it's going to be the largest tonnage that you meet. It's going to have the largest impact in terms of CO2 emissions to transport it. At Weiss, we mine over 40,000 tons a month. However, we ship 120 tons a month to China. So we've taken a bulk amount of 40,000, refined it down to 120 tons, and that is what we ship.
What core factors are taken into consideration when you determine which resources will be mined?
In this instance, it's not a case of us going out and saying we'll be mining this resource. It's a case of what we find that is economic and then mine that. You might get an area of ground, which we have done in the past, that had no resources over it at all. And you go out and find it. We had an indication that there was something there, and then looked further. And through our different exploration techniques and methodologies, we would find, for example, lithium. In our instance, we will look at most metals. We're primarily focused on tech metals. That's why we picked up the Brumberg West project. It doesn't have any tantalum in it, but it does have tungsten. Now we know tungsten is also going to be required for future technology metals. As a result, we picked up that ground. The historical Brumberg West mine is there. So we obviously investigating that, but then we're also looking for the extensions, which no one found previously. There's also some indications there that there may be some significant copper. So we're now investigating that. After our investigations, we either know it's economic and we can proceed. We'll rule it out as non-economic and then move on to the next project.
What exactly are drill holes?
In this instance, drill holes are holes that we drill into the ground, find out what is present below the surface. For example, if I have a unit that runs at surface, we need to find out where that continues underground. One of the options is for us to go dig massive holes and try and follow it in that way. Or we can make smaller holes. In most instances, they're less than 15 centimeters in diameter. And we can use those to find out where the mineralization or that rock unit continues at depth.
Tim, thank you so much for your time today. This was extremely insightful, learned quite a bit, and I look forward to our next interview in a few months' time.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It was great, and hopefully I'll get the chance to see you again.